Let's get to our final topic since we've been talking about docu-series and things all day. Well, previously, but apparently, what on the curb is Paul Reubens in his the final documentary came out as a homosexual, and that is saying he came out as a homosexual beyond the grave. And there was a documentary that they did on him. Um, at I think it premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, and it's called Pee Wee as Himself. So right now, it does not have a distributor, and but it was shown at the Sundance Film Festival, and people were saying that it got a standing ovation. Like it's a lot of it's basically a good movie. So better known for his broad smile and silly voices, Pee Wee Herman actor Paul Reubens becomes royally emotional in the documentary Pee Wee as Himself, which premiered last Thursday night at the Sundance Film Festival. The revealing two-part movie, which will eventually, okay, so it does have a distributor. That was my fault. It will eventually air on HBO. Features the final interviews with Reubens, who died of cancer in July of 2023 at age 70. Now, director Matt Wolf sat with the funny actor for 40 hours over the course of a year to reflect on his life as a closeted homosexual man with his showbiz career and agonizing sex scandals. The moving doc, because I don't want y'all thinking I said movie. The moving doc also includes the last audio recording Reubens made on the day before his death, saying more than anything, the reason I wanted to make a documentary was for people to see who I really am and how painful and dreadful it was to be labeled something I wasn't, he said in a weak voice, to be labeled a pariah, to have people be scared of you or untrusting. Now, the movie also gave ailing Reubens a chance to tell his side of things. Earlier in the film, the actor who had kept his cancer diagnosis quiet said, "Death is just so final. To be able to get your message in at the last minute at some point is incredible." Born in Peekskill, New York, Reubens never publicly came out of the closet, but the doc reveals that well before Pee Wee became a worldwide sensation, the actor had a boyfriend named Guy from Echo Park in Los Angeles, whose humorous vocal tics were the vital inspiration for the comedian's defining character. Guy had a bit where he'd say things like, buttery, in a Yoda-like brogue. You can see where that led me. This is where Reubens says. Now, Reubens debuted Pee Wee Herman while performing with comedy troupe The Groundlings in 1981. And when his Pee Wee stage show exploded in LA, the actor chose to conceal his private life entirely. This sounds like something similar to, oh my God, Luke Evans. Because I remember at one point, Luke Evans was out of the closet as a Broadway performer because he was in Taboo. And he was out of the closet. And then when his career started to kind of blow up, he kind of went in. And then he started coming out about him, and then he came out again. So there was that. So they said, him being a part of the Groundlings, that was huge back in the day. There was a lot of famous people, famous comedians that came out of the whole Groundlings troupe. He said, I was out of the closet and then I went back in the closet, he says in the movie. I wasn't pursuing the Paul Reubens career. I was pursuing the Pee Wee Herman career. The actor went to visit Guy in the hospital as he was dying of AIDS. He said, to talk about seeing someone at death's door, he trails off. He probably died a couple of hours after that. While Reubens admits, I had many, many secret relationships, his personal life took a back seat to a gray suit and red bow tie. Pee Wee became a staple on NBC's new risk-taking talk show, Late Night with David Letterman, appearing every few months from 1982 to 1985. Those popular segments led to a sold-out national tour and impressed Hollywood execs signed off on his 1985 movie, Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Now, during the iconic tequila scene at the biker bar, Reubens came to blows with the set. They said, while I was up on the bar, I banged the hell out of my head on a beam, he said. It's the take we used. Tim Burton's first feature was a huge hit, grossing $40 million off a $6 million budget. Pee Wee was riding high, but the world was growing darker for Reubens. He said, I hid behind my alter ego. I spent my entire adult life hiding I was a huge weed head. And he was concealing something weightier. He said, I was secretive about my sexuality, even to my friends, out of self-hatred and self-preservation. I was conflicted about my sexuality, but fame was way more complicated. In 1986, CBS offered Reubens a Saturday morning, kid show, Pee Wee's Playhouse. Well, I remember that. Because remember, Lawrence Fishburne was on there. He played Cowboy Curtis. So this is the brilliant, innovative program was out of the box, quirky, and meticulously designed. Characters like Cherry, Cowboy Curtis, Jambi, and Miss Yvonne became weekend favorites. One reviewer praised Playhouse as Caligula in Kittyland. Not that reference. Caligula in Kittyland. You know what Caligula is? Listen, behind the scenes, Reubens was a demanding taskmaster. Paul had conflicts with most everyone he worked with. That was just his nature. Show designer Wayne White said in the doc, Paul could hold a grudge. He didn't forgive easily. He became estranged from Phil Hartman, who helped develop the character and played Captain Carl on Playhouse after Hartman was cast on SNL and left the show. In the doc, Reubens still speaks of their friendship breakup with bitterness decades later. He rose to the top. Good for him. I'm like, well, aren't you shady? Now the queens are. Now, Playhouse was a massive success. And in 1988, Pee Wee, not Reubens, received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. However, that same year, his film follow-up Big Top Pee Wee was a maligned flop and I went into shock, this is what he said. And soon, Reubens' life became engulfed by scandal. In 1991, this is when it really get juicy. Because I remember this story. But I was a kid then. But we all knew about it. So in 91, Reubens was arrested and charged with indecent exposure at an adult movie theater in Sarasota, Florida. He pleaded no contest. He said, I kept who I was a secret for a very long time, he said. That really backfired when I got arrested. People had never seen a photo of me other than Pee Wee Herman, and all of a sudden, I had a Charles Manson mugshot. Well, hold on, because I got that picture too. Bam, there it is. He said, I lost control of my anonymity. It was devastating. Now, with the help of friends, Reubens got out of Sarasota without paparazzi catching him by donning fake teeth, glasses, and cutting his hair. He hid out for 2 weeks at his pal Doris Duke's home in New Jersey. It's shocking what horrible, awful stuff people think about me, Reubens says. It's still a significant footnote. 30 years later, I still feel the effects all the time. Yeah, because people need to realize, like, after that whole indecent exposure situation, his career never fully recovered from that. I remember that was like the running joke. And remember, once upon a time, he was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie with Christy Swanson. I remember him from that too. And I did like his performance in that, especially like when she stabbed him with the stake and how it took him like 5 minutes to die and he was overdoing it. I was like, okay, that seems funny. But even though that movie was a mess, it is a guilty pleasure. The show was way better, but I thoroughly enjoyed the movie for what it is. So now to recuperate his image, excuse me, Reubens appeared as Pee Wee at the MTV VMAs that September to a euphoric reception and was a guest as himself on Conan O'Brien and The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. A crisis PR also staged a photo, excuse me, of Reubens on a date with a woman at an LA restaurant who happened to be someone that Madonna's good friends with, Debbie Mazur, and said that they maintain a deep connection. She said, he was my boyfriend. This is what Mazur says in the documentary. I know people will say he was gay. So what? Now, in 2001, Reubens' home was raided and he was charged with possessing images that were thought to be rhymes with pornography. The actor, who was an enthusiastic collector of all manner of rare memorabilia, insisted the photos were vintage erotica. Some collections could be found in college libraries. The charges were dropped in 2004, and Reubens pleaded guilty to a lesser obscenity charge. But you found out they have vintage pictures of young people naked. But they said Mazur's friend David Arquette and his wife at the time, Courtney Cox, stood by Reubens throughout the ordeal. Well, trial, ordeal, same shit. Now, later, the actor's career bounced back somewhat. He starred in Pee Wee Herman's show on Broadway in 2010. The Post said the performance was like eating a huge ice cream sundae topped by a mountain of whipped cream and exploding sparklers. And in addition to small roles and voice acting, he made the film Pee Wee's Big Holiday in 2016. I was like, let's go back to another photo, and I ain't going to leave it on the mugshot. Now, when the obscenity topic comes up in Pee-wee as himself, on-screen text reveals that Reubens stopped cooperating with Wolf and the filmmakers and never sat down for another interview. Ever the control freak, the actor harbored concerns over how his complex story would be told. But my thing is, if you're coming on as yourself and they're trying to ask you, okay, let's see it, warts and all, why don't you just come out and just give them everything? But like they said, that Paul was someone who was very difficult, meaning that he was trying to control every aspect of the perception of his career, especially when he was saying like him being a homosexual. He was ashamed and there was a lot of self-hatred that was going on, which is why he kept that secret. And it seems like that's his go-to place for things whenever something's going on in his life, because he kept the gayness a secret, he kept his cancer diagnosis a secret, and then, to wrap up the story, it's like with him being a control freak, his health was failing. And he eventually, after that time that he took away from, he was not no longer going to cooperate with the filmmakers and sit down for an interview. He actually sent like an audio message to Wolf, which basically was, and they put that in the film. That was the final thing that he said, and then right after he died. So I think maybe that, some people will say like, okay, the universe is like, oh, we're going to keep you alive until this thing is complete. And then when it's done, then it's like, okay, God's going to call you home. And so Paul said, my whole career, everything I did and wrote was based in love. And it's like, sometimes it be like that when you're an artist. It's like when you're creating your art and you have all these people around and you're trying to create a certain narrative about things, it's like, yes, some things are going to, people can be, when you're passionate about things, you can be difficult to be around and work with. So I can totally understand that he was a complex person. And as someone who was a huge fan of Pee Wee Herman growing up, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing this documentary. And I will forever love, like, one of my favorite looks from Sharon Needles on Drag Race is when she dressed up as Pee Wee Herman. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story? Are you guys excited for when this documentary comes out? Are you looking forward to seeing it when it comes out on HBO later this year? Whatever your thoughts are on this whole situation, let me know in the comments down below.